we interrupt this scheduled program with this important announcement. Please stay tuned.
Hello everyone, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you guys are. This is going to be a dual channel update for the gablovestech How To 12 channel and the main Gabriel Loria channel, where I have been, where Crayton has been, what our plans are for the future, and things like that. I gotta say though, great intro. I had no part in it at all. I totally had no part in it at all.
I totally did this intro, guys. I did it all myself.
Yeah. I may or may not have known about this. No idea. I'm not going to say. But yeah, this is just going to be a bunch of updates. First of all, where I have been, and I've just been busy with school, things like that. Obviously, COVID, 2020 was a rough year, especially of schooling, especially because I was in person. We got booted online and then back to school several times, so I really had time to really check on here and give you guys an update, again, on both channels. Also, the fact that I don't really get a lot of new tech. I mean, I have the AirPods Pro, but there's really nothing interesting to record about that. I have a new MacBook. Again, nothing, my 2020 non-M1 MacBook Air. But again, it's a Mac. There's nothing interesting about that.
That's right.
Things like that. But I don't really have any new exciting tech to review, so I haven't. Just not having ideas, for anything. But yeah, I haven't been up to much. Just not having any ideas. Crayton, he's been busy, with things.
Yes. COVID has caused... I'm getting a FaceTime group, which I'm just going to decline that. I got a notification here on the Mac. I'll deal with that here in a little bit. But because I work here in a Christian school environment, it has not been easy, especially during the COVID, because we have last school year, we started out in person, but the deal was everywhere we went, we had to have masks. And the big problem is trying to tell young kids that. You have fun with that.
I should know, because high school, when teenagers get rebellious, it's not fun.
It's honestly not. And so
yeah, no.
We struggled with that for a while, and then once everybody got hit with COVID, except for me and several other people that tested negative, but then the school closed down, and that was not fun. And we went strictly online. I had to get used to Zoom at that point, even though I had used it before, but I really got used to it then.
I prefer Zoom over Google Meet, honestly.
Yes, because Google Meet is a mess.
It is. But yeah, it's just been a crazier for all of us, so YouTube hasn't really been at the top of our priority list.
No, it has not. One of the big things, too, is
as well.
I haven't had a lot of new tech gear to go over, quite honestly.
Not anything interesting that's worth going over.
No, and the big reason for it is because I spent a lot of 2020 getting my book libraries and all that done, and really there hasn't been a lot in terms of the OrCam thing because we haven't been able to meet in person. And so we haven't really started anything with that. And of course, you guys know what happened if you've listened to the video that Gabriel and I did.
Yeah. But yeah.
So I mean, sure, I'm broadcasting from a different mixer, same mic but a different mixing board.
Even though we're not really live.
Right, exactly. But we're podcasting, mind you, from a different mixer board. At least I am.
Yeah, I'm still on the same one, but.
I mean, really, quite honestly,
oh, right,
there has.
I forgot. I had the S20 a few months ago, so that's new, but nothing worth going over.
No, and I have now an M1 machine, but really, there's not too much to go over with it.
It's a Mac. There's nothing new that we haven't already covered on either one of the channels, whether it be my main or Gabstech How To 12.
Now, one thing
there's not much.
This thing does have that we haven't really covered is the fact that the boot menu talks, and you can
we'll get into that. We'll get into that once we get into kind of our future plans for things.
Yeah,
which I'll get into
but
here in a minute.
Other than that, I mean, there's not too much new. I mean, file sharing, which I have enabled, works the same.
Everything works pretty much the same.
The only thing is
plus,
we're not running boot camp on this at all, so
you kind of can't.
Well, I mean, the utility's not even here, so
it's not anymore.
No, it's not. It's not even on here.
Oh, they finally got rid of it.
Like, for an example, like if you go to utilities, you got activity monitor, airport, audio MIDI, Bluetooth, caller sync utility.
Oh, bye-bye.
Yep. It's gone.
Yeah, well. Oh, well. But no, anyway. This is going to be a little more of a shorter video because there's not a lot to talk about, but future plans. I've really sat down and thought over the past few months, especially after that Orcam update / channel update video. I've really thought long and hard about this, and I think now is about time I decided to just not so much as give up on YouTube completely, but just stop uploading to YouTube for the time being and switch over to the podcast. Reason being, with this whole YouTube thing, I'm really getting fed up with YouTube's, excuse the language, but I'm really getting tired of YouTube's bullshit and all their stupid restrictions and things. They're not as lenient with videos as they used to be.
And this is true, guys. They're not. I mean, it's a whole different process now.
Yeah. And besides YouTube's shit, the podcast, despite Anchor being slightly more lenient with what you can do, it's just so much easier to work with audio files. And, with this, because we're recording audio, then we got to use a separate service to upload the content, this and that. So I'm just... Videos are just a lot of work when audio can be a little bit easier. So I kind of want to, for the future, pour my work into the podcast.
Yes.
Into CG Tech, Blind Beyond Tech, that kind of thing. And I do want to start that up because especially once I acquire important life skills, I want to put that on Blind Beyond Tech podcast. I've already have one on there, me, independently doing laundry, things like that. But otherwise, I think I just want to just say fuck YouTube and just...
Pretty much.
Because I'm just getting tired of it, all the different requirements now. If I want to live stream from mobile, I can't,
They literally, guys, YouTube has turned into a bag of trash, and it has.
It has. I mean,
you just can't, you can't do the stuff you used to be able to do.
No,
and you can't. No matter what anybody says, guys, this is what Gabriel and I have decided to do. And,
again, it's nothing against you guys. Obviously, you know, we've
No.
had some problems with some people, but it's mainly YouTube. And the fact that it's just more effort to do videos and things like that, especially if we have to worry about, oh, is my monitor working? Can I do screen share properly? It's just easier to do podcast, and it's easier for...
It is. It's easier to edit, too.
Yeah.
You know, Gabriel and I, we're both Mac users, as you guys already know. Since the beginning, when we started doing these tutorials...
Especially on gablovestech How To 12. Crayton's been on a few in my main channel, but
Yep.
not a lot.
Not as much as gablovestech.
Which, don't know why I didn't change the name when he got on board.
Well, here's what's funny about that. I know we were going
we could
to,
just rename it to...
but we never did.
Yeah,
we never
I
got
might
to
rename
it.
it in the future. I might rename it in the future to CG Tech, like the podcast, but not my priority.
Well, I mean...
Yeah, but really, just YouTube has just gotten... It's just pissed me off to no end. And, you know, my goal with this whole YouTube thing was to kind of be informative on and show, you know, how blind people use Mac and things like that, and show that it's doable. You know, we're not as incapable as some people think we are. But
Exactly.
really, that goal has been transferred over to the podcast, and I think it's such a better environment as well. So I'll definitely put the two podcasts for CG Tech mainly and Blind Beyond Tech down below.
Yes.
Because YouTube is just a lot of work, and I'm not going to be doing what some of those YouTubers are doing when they quit YouTube and delete all my videos. That's not happening.
They're still going to be here because there is some relevant Mac information.
And the fact that, you know, I've put little effort, but, you know, it's just gonna be a
hours
lot
of
more
work, especially the Mac tutorials. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
But no, and it's not like I'm gonna stop uploading forever. I'll upload from time to time to check in with y'all, but really, it's
It just
not
gets
worth my
tough.
time anymore to do YouTube. Yeah,
The big thing,
I mean,
too...
even with the podcast, it's hard to think of ideas. We're already...
It is.
It's annoying to have to make sure, is this up to date on Anchor? Is this up to date on YouTube? Is this blah, blah, blah? So it's easier for me to just streamline everything to Anchor, and it's a lot better of a platform, because at least then, you know, you don't need a device with YouTube to listen. You know, you can listen on Anchor itself, TuneIn,
the website.
Actually, I don't think it's even on TuneIn. I don't know. Spotify.
Our podcast,
anything.
I don't know if it's on TuneIn. I know Apple Podcasts have it.
Apple Podcasts, Downcast, I think, some other ones.
Overcast has it. So, I mean, there's a lot of different platforms, and that's...
Yeah.
When Gabriel and I first got Anchor, we really got on the ball and started to really go through a lot of different things, and
yeah,
I would
there's
honestly...
still some things we still need to make, but...
Yes, but we haven't. But I think now that we got this YouTube thing out of the way, we can make the podcast. Speaking of the URL...
I'll pull it up, and then I'll put it on...
I think I found it. Yeah. It's anchor.fm/cgtech.
I think it's in my descriptions, actually, because I have a description template. For one channel, so that's going to be a pain in the butt. Whatever.
Yeah,
but yeah.
It happens.
I'm pretty much just done with uploading to YouTube, because it's, you know, Anchor, it's nice and easy. YouTube sometimes is a pain.
Yeah,
especially since they changed the web interface of YouTube.
Well, you know, it used to be, you know, we had the YouTube Studio Classic, is what they call it now. And now, you know, we really don't have that anymore because of the fact that YouTube has said, well, you don't need that anymore. And so, you know, we don't have that. And so it gets really hard to go through videos and try to figure out, you know, well, do we want to keep that or delete it?
Yeah, and I know some people don't mind that new interface, but Anchor's just so much easier.
It is.
And we can have a little more structure, with it. And we don't need to deal with pesky ads. And I know I considered monetizing it, but because, I don't plan on making the podcast my full-time career, there's really no point.
No. That's why Gabriel and I have not done that.
If I lived in the U.S. and I wanted to pursue podcasting as a career, then I would monetize. But IT is my career of choice, so that's not really my priority. My priority was never really to be a full-time YouTuber. And
Gabriel and I do podcasting, like he said, as a hobby. And I have my own podcast as a hobby. And so, we got CG Tech and Blind Beyond Tech. The podcast that we do, which, speaking of that, Gabriel, need to get with you on that after we're done with that. Because I have stuff for that.
Yeah, see, I only have one. That was because... so, obviously, CG Tech is the tech thing where we just show all of our tech, whatever, blah, 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 blah. Blind Beyond Tech is kind of like a life podcast and kind of show, outside of just using technology, how we can do things around the house. Obviously technology will be involved if, we're doing independent travel, we'll, show some of these apps and things that you can use if you're blind and whatever. But Blind Beyond Tech was and is supposed to be a podcast where it's more like a vlog like on YouTube, but it's more of like an A-log of just blind life in general, and show, for people for parents who have blind kids, or even kids who are blind that are insecure about their blindness, that we're capable of doing things. We're not, we're not meant to be couch potatoes just because we can't see.
That's right.
That's why, it's more of an educational podcast to show that we are capable and we are something. So
yes.
That's the main goal.
That's why we have Blind Beyond Tech. And that, I would encourage you guys to subscribe to that, because I've got some things in the works for that need to be recorded, but they will be uploaded to the Blind Beyond Tech, and I would encourage you guys to go and take a look.
Yep, definitely a thing. And once it's not only going to be demonstrations on how I do things that normal-sighted people would do. Just it's a podcast where we can just record anything that's going on in our lives and upload it as an educational piece. So that's our goal for that podcast. And another update too. In the future with IT, on the side. Shout out Adrian, because I know you're going to be watching at least on one of the channels. My plan with him is to kind of spread awareness about, the true nature of blind people, and, not some of these other blindies who, try to take advantage of their blindness. We want to show, and make people aware of, that the fact that we're normal, but we just need slight adaptation. And with him, he's gotten triggered beyond, and he's sighted, and he's gotten triggered beyond belief because of how little services there are for the blind that also mainstream people can use. And we kind of want to both just go out there and kind of address that.
Well, you think of like, and I know this is kind of tech related, but you think of like screen readers for Windows, and how many of them have, like, for an example, forms mode and browse mode, and you got all these different things. Well, that's all good and well if you're a screen reader user, but what if you're a mouse user? It's not as it's not that simple sometimes to click into a combo box or a web form. And, Mac, it makes it so much more simpler. And even, other things, too.
Yeah, and
that's just one of them.
The main thing, too, me and Adrian want to address is the fact that in daily life, there's so little things that are blind friendly that could be blind friendly. Like, look, you go to the store and you're looking at products. Like, I've had many times where me and Adrian are walking around stores and I'm like, oh, what's this? What's that? What's this? And the other, we want to kind of make it known to, not only retail people, but, manufacturers, how they could possibly make things that normal-sighted people need every day. Either the packaging be accessible to be known what it is, or the product itself, because there's a lot of mainstream products that we could use that are just utter garbage when it comes to accessibility. So we really want to, me and him as a side gig, really want to get out there and make awareness and show that we're not all lazy and reliant on people. We have a lot of us blind people have aspirations of what we want to do later in life, and that's what a lot of people need to realize, in the sighted community, but in the blind community as well, is just because we're disabled doesn't mean we're not normal. Just because we can't see, we're not normal. And I've had many conversations with people in the past, who've asked, if you ever could see, would you? And I'm like, not really, but yes, because, obviously this is different per circumstance, but for me, I'm happy where I'm at, I don't see a point in being depressed about a disability that I can't fix, at least not right now. And the fact that I'm used to it being this way, I don't really care anymore. And the thing is, and some people ask, what kind of... just because I'm blind, I don't seek privilege. If I'm given privilege, I'll take it in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
But I don't go looking. I don't go actively looking for exceptions to rules and things like that, and that's unfortunately what some blind people do. If I'm given privilege or something without being asked, and it's not going to affect anyone else, sure, I'll take it in a heartbeat, but I will never actively, unless I absolutely need to. If it depends on my safety, I don't actively look for those types of things, and I don't really consider myself a blind person. I consider myself your normal person. The only difference with me is that my eyes don't work, so I don't really see myself as this blindy. I see myself more as normal, but obviously we're not going to talk about that too much. That's not the point of this YouTube channel. So maybe in the future, that's what one of the YouTube channels will turn into, or, maybe me and him decide to do some public speaking. We don't know. IT is my first priority. But, that's kind of what we want to get into in the future. Again, not going to completely get rid of these channels. I've got some content within the next few years I want to put out to not only the podcast, but here. Once I get into my ham radio stuff, I'll put some of that here. Things like that. Miscellaneous content I'll put on here, but the lot of my work in terms of recording is going to be done for one of the podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for Crayton, that's the same thing.
Yeah, I think a big chunk of it now, since Gabriel and I have talked about getting this podcast started, is Blind Beyond Tech. Because of the fact that there are things that him and I can work on uploading.
Definitely.
Piece by piece.
And obviously him, being a few years older than me, he's gone through life. And obviously I'm 18, but I haven't gone through too much yet. I'm still living at home. I mean, granted, he is too, but, he's a little more independent than I am in some cases. So there's a lot that he could upload, and the fact, once I do get more independent, then
I know, kind of just as a hint, tomorrow, I should have this up by tomorrow night, maybe Saturday, hopefully tomorrow, maybe tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow night. A friend of mine and I are going out, and we are going to go out for lunch. We've been wanting to do this for a good couple years, but we never have gotten to. And now that we have the opportunity to, we're going to take it. and we're going to go out to lunch. And I will record what it's like to interact with a fully sighted friend and go with him. And so we're just going to go through that.
And I'll be doing something similar on how I do it, because obviously, our interactions may be different depending on who we're with. So I'll do something like that at some point. Again, Blind Beyond Tech's not only meant for just demonstrating how I do things, that a mainstream person would do, but just kind of sharing our experiences in interacting with the real world. Will be uploaded to there as well to kind of give people an idea.
Exactly. Yes.
We're not, we're normal people. We're not, just because we're blind doesn't mean we're aliens that shouldn't be considered. So, honestly, some people may not think this, or I should say maybe most people in the blind community would think this, but I don't consider myself part of the community.
I don't either.
I just, with all the drama in the blind community lately, I've just said, you know what, fuck it.
Yep.
But I never really have considered my person a blindy or a blind person. I've more considered myself normal. I've really just considered myself a normal person with eyes that don't work. That's how I kind of consider myself, and quite honestly, I relate more to sighted people in terms of my interest and things like that anyway. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's about time that I kind of show that on the podcast, and that's something we're going to show, and, going out there and putting out ideas on how things in general life, in businesses and things like that could be adapted for not only, because everyone's on point with wheelchair accessibility, but most businesses are not on point when it comes to other disabilities. So I really think not only blindness as a whole should be considered, but I think everyone with disability should be considered.
I will go ahead and tell you guys, for those who have followed the Orcam progress on the channel, be aware that there is going to be some Orcam content coming up in the near future when we start doing more podcasts.
But that'll be on the podcast.
That'll be
one of the two podcasts.
Yeah, and probably more likely, how the Orcam adapts to everyday life. That'll be on the Blind Beyond Tech.
Yeah, the tech aspects of it, showing how everything works. That'll be on
CG Tech.
Showing kind of how he uses it in daily life, because I don't have one yet. Would be for Blind Beyond Tech.
So, kind of be expecting that. I'll go over that. But anyway, guys, I think that's pretty much it. I don't.
Yeah, and just as a note too, the podcasts aren't going to be, the audio logs aren't going to be, us playing games and shit like that.
No, because Gabriel and I don't do that.
No,
we don't.
This is going to be showing. This podcast is for people who, and just as a note, CG Tech may not be as clean as it should be. We're going to make an attempt to make, obviously because it's an educational one, we're going to attempt to make that one a little more family-friendly. We'll try, knowing me.
Another thing, too, just kind of as a side note, I'm going to talk about how a person can, set up a regular TV on the daily life one. And how, we as blind people can sit down and watch TV with a friend or family member. Or
that, and just note, too, we're using normal mainstream phraseology.
Sure are.
Not this bullshit like, I'm going to listen to that TV show. I'm going to, that's another thing, too.
That's another thing we're going to talk about.
Yeah, especially on Blind Beyond Tech, and you'll see, whenever, I'm recording or doing whatever, whenever I ask for stuff, can I see this instead of can I feel this? So we really want to reiterate the fact that just because we're blind doesn't mean we're not normal. Most of us don't have any mental disabilities or intellectual disabilities, that kind of thing. Most of us are highly functional people, and we need to be able to prove that to people once we work as well when we get older. So, we want to really show, that the fact that, yeah, we're blind, but we're able to do the same shit that a mainstream person. Granted, I don't see myself becoming an airline pilot or a police officer or a firefighter anytime soon, but we can do most mainstream jobs that mainstream people do, and I really think that's really what should be done, because, there are just, a lot of the services that are put forth for the blind are just not the best, in my opinion.
And they're not.
Not because, they're shit at teaching or whatever. They may be the best teachers in the world, but just the things they teach sometimes can be a little, and what they try to lead you to believe is a little fucked up. So that's the point of Blind Beyond Tech, to kind of show that, hey, our eyes may not work, but we're fully damn well capable of doing normal things that, my sighted buddies can do. So that's kind of the point of Blind Beyond Tech. So that's something exciting, and we'll soon hopefully be pretty active on that, especially Crayton. Griff might have some ideas on what he might want to do, especially because he's trying to work up his independence. He has work, so he might be able to figure something out, but Crayton has some content coming up that even I don't know about. So I think that's what we really want to focus on. Blind Beyond Tech and CG Tech, just the podcast in general, because YouTube is just getting ridiculous.
Yeah, and it really is. We'll keep, like we said, before we end it, because, we've been recording for 31 minutes.
Shoot.
The videos...
I forgot Tunes to Tube has a thingy.
Yeah, the videos are going to stay. But
yeah.
In terms of anything else...
I'll make content from time to time, but it's going to be rare.
Yeah, because we'll be mainly focusing on podcasting things.
Yep, whether it be the tech podcast or the life podcast, we're going to be mainly focusing on podcasting, and maybe we'll have some interviews and things with whoever. I honestly really want to interview some of my sighted peers and kind of see, originally, what did they think, when we first became friends, what did they think, how they thought, what their thoughts of, oh shit, wow, what do I do? I really want to get some of those on too, and I'm pretty sure Crayton will have some friends too that he might have that he might want to interview.
I'll have some.
To see, their take on how blind people are, things like that, and just have some fun. That's our main point too.
Yeah.
Is it's not going to be all serious education. We just want to have fun. But no, Blind Beyond Tech, we're going to try to make that a little more family friendly.
Yes.
Hopefully, because knowing me, I cuss like a trooper, so
we'll
see.
I'll tell you this, guys, that both CG Tech and Blind Beyond Tech will have some pretty cool stuff coming up. So kind of keep your ears
on
and
Crayton's
eyes
end,
out.
especially.
Yeah,
because I have nothing new, so especially Crayton.
I might spend tonight actually going through my podcast and downloading some episodes and getting them uploaded. But
yeah. That's another thing too, guys. For Blind Beyond Tech, we're not going to get as fancy as CG Tech. We're not going to have these special intros and all that BS. It's just going to be raw. Somewhat edited, but mostly raw content.
Yep.
Of how things are. I mean, some of the more informational maybe we'll have a little more editing, but the only editing that's going to be in the audio logs is if we're going to be recording things during the day is splicing them together. That's mainly it. It's nothing going to be fancy, unlike CG Tech. Now, CG Tech, obviously being a lot more information heavy, things like that, will make it a little bit fancy, make nice intros for it, whatever. Blind Beyond Tech, doesn't really matter. Because, that's a podcast, we can have fun with and just kind of teach people. And that's kind of my goal. I couldn't teach people in person, but, I want to be an educator, but not directly. I couldn't be a teacher. I don't have the patience.
But anyway, guys, that's going to be it for this. And so we're going to stop it, and we'll make sure that it gets posted to you guys.
Yep. All right. Well, See you guys on the podcast.